Hi, Assalamu alaikum. Sisters and brothers. This is my Rahim here, Messenger Covenant, breaking 7 seals. I had a lengthy presentation prepared for today, brothers and sisters, but it took me a long time to prepare this. I find technical difficulties, so I'll get a short version. Perhaps maybe tomorrow I'll give the full version. So I'm just going to do mostly commentary. Just connect some dots, point out a few things. But the birth of Legion, it says that Satan would, see, these things are so simple, like Elijah Muhammad said, the truth be made so simple, the fool would err. So the scripture says Satan will cast out Satan. Well, what does he mean? Well, isn't that what Farrakhan says he's doing? He's casting out Satan. He's pointing him out. So he's the other Satan. You know, these things are so simple. So you say, well, you know, our people in general are being blocked from it. It's been distorted. And it came to my attention over there, you know, this, I was at the gym, right? And it came about this, one of these pictures, I think is, what's her name, Jennifer Lope or Lope, whatever, Lope. And they keep sending me these pictures. And the more I delete them, the more I get them, so I just stopped deleting them, right? Her and all these people, I mean, they're naked, right? I don't know why it says that, but it's on I think it's something that you get from, you know, it's not advertisement. And you say you can delete them, I delete it. You know, it's the option you can delete those times, they still show up anyway. So the guy pointed out, I says, that's AI. I hadn't thought of that because I figured, you know, if they took and published people saw like that picture and that's not theirs, they'd be sued. So I don't know what's going on with that, but they claim that's the AI stuff. I know that stuff is going on because they already showed it. I think they Crime Tom Cruise a while back where they showed, right? So I know, and I expect they do something like that on me before long. I always expect that. That's why years ago, because I knew they had the ability. The problem was years ago, the reason they didn't do it because the computer power wasn't fast enough. They had the code. Remember, just because you had the code, you had to have the computer power, right? Because, and the bottom line is, let me move on. The bottom line is, brothers and sisters, that a lot of stuff you see now is not even, like, they're showing these things on their plate, and they're not even real. They show this one this little baby where a mother threw out the car in the snowy road, right? And people driving by and snoring the baby, right? And then a dog came by and saw the baby, picked the baby up, and carried the baby to its master, right? I know that's. And then what happened was that a day later, they showed the exact same baby. This time, a lion picks the baby up. So, you know, but you could not tell it wasn't. And the bottom line is that, that's what I'm saying. It said it says the truth could be so that even it says that the deception be so great that they could even deceive the elect if it was possible. Because you ain't seen anything yet. See, if they was allowed to go on, after a while they wouldn't need movies, they wouldn't need stars. They wouldn't need, in fact, when you watch the media, you may not be watching real people. Because the computer power, they had the computer, the code years ago. They didn't have computers fast enough to run it. Because if you ran it, you could see like cartoons slow. And remember how the cartoons getting better and better and better animation, where you can almost, well, it's that, so they can show people doing things that they're not, nope, not them. So why pay somebody $1 million to take in a star, Tom Cruise, when you just make up characters? And they're more real than the people that's doing it. Plus, you ain't got to pay them anything, or you got just Pay somebody to write the code. We make all the characters, make the whole. I mean, you sit home, and if you know AI well enough, and you got enough computer power, you can make movies at home right now. You can make movies at home right now, a full-length movie, and it looks like real people. And so, at what point do you know? Because they have news stations and everything else. How would you know? See, that's why it has to be shut down fast, because you would know. That gets to another point. See, I know we don't think about these things, and people not taking this stuff as serious. But you go into it in a minute, because I know people not taking it serious as they ought to, because I can tell the way they act. The way, you know, if a woman's, she got a baby and she don't care about that baby, she gonna handle that baby with care. She gonna make sure everything's right. She makes the diapers changed, the baby's fed, and she gonna handle it very carefully. But no one's handling this carefully. They don't handle the angel carefully. They don't handle the body. They don't handle any of that stuff carefully. Because they wouldn't make mistakes they're making. Just saying anything. Because if you really cared about it, it really meant something to you, you wouldn't do those things. You'd be out there guessing. You'd be out there lying, making stuff up, performing. You wouldn't be doing any of that. Because if your life was on the line, you wouldn't be doing any of that. See? So I tell people, you know, dumb people don't know they're dumb. Like a dog doesn't know it's a dog. And so they run some people that can see, like blind people, they don't know anything about sight, unless they had sight before. You might tell them they don't know what the hell that is. But you can see them. See? And no matter what they do, you can see them. They don't realize you can see them. And people expose themselves to me all the time. They don't realize it. Sometimes I speak to it, sometimes I don't. Sometimes you don't tell the person you can see them because you want the person to continue doing what they're doing so you can observe them. Because once they know you can see them, then they're going to be more careful what they're doing. At least they're going to hide it from you. I tell people they understand. They understand in a minute. Because nobody I know has really understood what's going on here. I mean, anyone. Only one I knew in my whole life that I met that understood the gravity of what's going on here was Elijah. That's why I was so impressed by him. Because look how serious I was. I put my whole life in jeopardy. I was in Vietnam. I invested 4 years in the military already. I went in there because I wanted to get an education, right? I wanted to, GI Bill. Because I'm from Newark. I was off. I had nothing. I had nothing. So I went in there. I said, Army, get off the streets. I know everybody was on the streets, was going to jail or getting killed. I had a friend of mine. We used to go and everybody get together, and they go up to a party or something. I mean, a whole bunch of them, like a gang. We had a little stupid gang called Condors or something. It wasn't much. Anyway, and so we going up, and this guy can't remember what his name was, right? But he used to talk loud, but he was like the upper class. He lived up in the Oranges. But he can't hang out with us, right? Because people have money. And so he came out, so we was moving up because we was going back towards their way. Next thing we know, man, somebody, hey, man, because, we go in groups. But we didn't actually, we go in groups, maybe 100 of us, maybe 10 on this block, 10 on that block. We all had conversion the same place. I think his name was Wally. I said, hey, what happened? They said, the cops pulled up on one group, and while he talked loud, then he and I guess whatever happened, the cops shot him, killed him. It's like that. That's the kind of stuff would happen. I said, I'm out of here. I'm getting out of New York. Right? So I went in, vested. I wanted to be an officer. I was going to do the whole 9 yards, right? I'm in Vietnam, sergeant. I'm reading the Bible because I said I don't have no parents, since I got to find something that's going to give me some kind of guidance that I didn't actually believe in 100%. Right? I just hold no story together. but it was, something to work with. And I've been reading the Bible from Genesis all the way. I got to Malachi by the time I got to Vietnam, right? So I've been on about 3.5 years, something like that when I got to Vietnam. My second tour in Vietnam, right? Yeah, two times. And I got there, I says, I ain't know about Malcolm X, Nation of Islam, any of that stuff. I ain't know about any of it. I read a book about Muhammad Ali. He had a book that written about the mother plants like that, but I didn't know who he was. I remember reading the book and he wrote it, but I didn't know who he was. So that's about the only connection I had, but I didn't know about any of these. I heard a little bit about the Black Panthers, but I didn't know about any of that stuff. I had been isolated. And I went in the Army in '66 just before that stuff happened. It's remarkable. All that stuff was not wrapped out lit. And I said, he must be around now, because I always loved black people. We got to do something, because I knew the situation was in. And I said, he must be around now. And just based on that, I gave everything up. I had paid money. I was going to buy a Porsche. They had a special program. They were using the military. I don't know if you had to be a sergeant or whatever, I forget now. But you got a wholesale value. Wholesale, so it costs, I guess, or even cheaper. I think the government subsidizes. Anyway, if you stay here, they take so much money out your check every month. And after so many years, right, you got a Porsche. I was into that. Educational lines up, everything. I was gonna come back hard, man. And come back like that in New Jersey, come back that, man, I would have had all the days and everything. I mean, I had planned, I worked this thing, right? And then I saw that, I dropped everything. 4 years of everything. Just on the belief, on that verse, Malachi, that's why people get in my face, I tell them, you better get out of my face. Because just on that was clear enough to me. I never heard Elijah Muhammad. That was clear enough to me that this person must exist here. Somebody named Elijah. And I left Vietnam cold. I took a vacation let's take a vacation to different places, right? So like I took a vacation to Bangkok and I was going to take one to Australia, different islands, because I was on the Pacific, right? But they lied to take one to Hawaii too. Because see, you couldn't go, if I took one to Bangkok, I couldn't go from Bangkok back to the States. I was in the military. If I took one to Hawaii, I'm in the States. See? And so I don't know if they know it was a bug or something they did, but I took one to Hawaii because it's in the Pacific, remember? And once I got in Hawaii, man, I was going to the States. We're looking for Elijah. Now, is that serious? Would I put my whole life on the line? Because I don't F around. I don't play around. I don't do anything half-assed. I put my whole life on the line. On a verse, just on belief, on faith. Looking for Elijah, and I found him. But I didn't know I was going to find him. I just every day online for that. Now, you know anybody make that kind of commitment? I don't know anybody. Yeah. So let me move on, brothers and sisters. So, like I said, since AI stuff, it's getting very serious. But those things, you take. I don't know if you notice this or not, but the media is told lies. I mean, once you understand, even if you don't understand the issue, people starting to get onto that. No, but lies. They try to distort history. So wait a minute. Remember, now children, they growing up, and they find out before long that the best liar is the one to succeed. So how do you expect them not to be liars? Then a liar is a part. You have to be a liar to succeed. You have to be wicked to succeed. It don't take long to learn that. So anyway, how can they tell the truth? They were taught them from birth to tell lies. They look on the media and see lies and contradictions. Oh, we're going to invade this place because they commit genocide. And then here falls Israel commit genocide. Well, the whole world can see, oh, and nobody said anything. And so what you're doing, like I said, you know, when you clay, you take clay and you give it's just clay, but you form it. And you give it form, and then once you give it form and you put it into a smelter, what do they call those things, right? Then you can't move mold anymore. That's what they're doing in their brains. They're teaching their brains to be liars. So therefore the liars get corrupted like that. There's nothing you can do about it. And devils, I mean, remember, their brains are built, even though they're wicked, their brain, even they're always cats, their brains are built to calculate accurately, but it depends on how strong, you know, how powerful the brain is, how powerful the software, how powerful the motherboard is in the computer. So animals calculate the information they calculate, they hunt and everything else. Not as well as we do. And devils, it says unless there's only six ounces, which we know it's not ounces, but they're trying to tell you the difference between an ounce and this. Ounce 7.5, there's only 6. But you distort that. See, they're born with weaker brains. It's not a wicked brain. That's the difference. Because you can't say a dog got a weak brain, but you can't call dogs wicked. You can't call cows wicked. They've got weaker brains. But because the devils had an option, right? God told them they had an option, but they don't have the discipline to maintain their brain in a what's the word I want to use? Well, in a positive. Well, I don't want to say it either. Well, keep their brains functioning properly. So because they're lack of discipline, they corrupt their brains, and they actually corrupt their children's brains because they distort the history and everything. And so that's what you got, and they still pay the consequence of that. So when you talk to them, it make no sense, and they're doing the same thing to our people. That's why we had to go to the wilderness 40-some years ago. It said some people's minds were so corrupted you couldn't. You see what I'm saying? Because why would you do that? Think about it. Why would you? If just because they got old, that don't mean nothing because they're going to be rejuvenated. No, because their brains got corrupted. Once it's corrupted, you can't do anything with it. You can't restore it. You cut your hand off, you ain't going to grow another one. So if you might have lying, deceive, and all that kind of stuff, you corrupt your brain. And we can't correct that. We can't correct that. Like I said, if you got eyes, come. If you got ears, come. But if you don't have no eyes, it can't do anything for you. If you corrupted your ability to think, right? And I worried about that too. Like when I did smoke all that marijuana when I was in Vietnam. See? That's a physical thing. And it isn't affecting me. I know it affected me because I know how it was before that. But it didn't affect me physically, but it didn't affect, right, my righteous thinking. Because once I was doing that because I ain't know any better. Once I realized, I stopped doing it. I don't know if you understand the distinction there, right? I said, well, yeah, man, that's why, well, the evidence is angel. If you think it's right, then you know I got to be thinking right to get it. So it didn't affect my right thinking, right? Just like, you can hurt your arm, you can still use your hand, but it's sore. And still use it, still work, it's just sore. That's the physical. But if you cut your fingers off, that's a whole different issue. There's two different things there. One is sore because you misuse it or whatever. Another thing is handicapped. You understand? My brain's not handicapped. Right? Well, maybe it is. Maybe, well, we'll see. But I'm saying that children out there, and they're getting worse and worse, and you cannot, and a lot of people in that situation, we cannot help them. I tell people, if you go out there and you lying and all that kind of stuff, you hurting yourself. The Quran tells you your actions cling to your neck. That's what it's telling you. So you do that stuff, except no matter how hard it is, right? And I said, well, you say you lie to your enemies. Is that a lie? That's right thinking. You got to get your mind straight. That's right there. That's self-preservation. Oh, I'm thinking right, and I just tell somebody to kill me. Well, he was thinking right. Yeah, you did right there. I mean, come on. Such thing as wisdom, right thinking, right acting. So if you do anything against yourself, that's corrupting yourself, destroying it. I mean, I'm going to take and make sure my brain is okay, right? But I'm going to kill myself in the process. I mean, let me move on, brothers and sisters. See, I know only people going to understand if they corrupt themselves. Because if you've been messing with you corrupt your brain, lying and stealing and all that kind of stuff, you're never going to understand any of this. You're never going to understand it. Because when it comes in, your brain, because now you got your brain telling you that 2 plus 2 is 22. So I got to tell you 2 plus 2, then you understand that. That makes sense to you. Because you talk to people like that, they make no sense. You talk, they make no sense. And you say, and some of you say, well, they're insane. How do you think they got insane? People insane don't realize they're insane. They got insane because that's the advanced stage of what I'm telling you. That's the advanced stage. You've been insane. You're totally out of tune with reality. And a lot of people in that situation, they take stuff that make any sense at all. Nothing. That song, Love Conquers Hate. What calculation you get that from? There's no calculation that adds that up. There's no scripture that says anything like that. Jesus said he come with a sword. So why would you say something like that? And people bought it. Love conquers hate. How? How does it do that? So stuff get past you because if your minds are correct, you got used into that Christianity. Yeah, that makes sense to you. Because Christianity corrupts your brain. I guess I was safe from because right away I knew something was wrong with that right away. Because they threw me out of Sunday school because I said every time they kept saying, why you keep asking questions? They threw me out. I never believed any of that stuff. Right? The only thing, like I said, I never believed. That's why I told you that scared me to death, but the hell. I said, well, I got to find out about this one. I never believed in that garbage. Never any of it from day one. Never believed any. When I was a child, never believed any of it. Because it didn't make any sense. And that was something about me. If I didn't make any sense, like I said, the first time everybody's hanging out, everybody's smoking, right? And they gave me a cigarette. I tried it. I said, well, what's this about? I said, I ain't getting nothing. Yeah, man, it's cool. I said, yeah, but that was the last time I smoked a cigarette. Didn't make any sense to me. But marijuana did because I felt good. And that was a mistake, but I didn't know any better. But once I found out, I stopped. Cold. Right? Because it says those who have pure heart, that means they got their brain straight. I don't mean your heart pure. No. Babies got pure heart. That's the scripture we're talking about, your brain, your mind. As I was saying, these and the stuff to look at, they go out and tell you stuff that don't make any sense. Okay, Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. Yeah, but false Israel has. Right? And why do you have the right to tell them that? Nobody says anything about that. Right? Iran's just because they want a nuclear weapon, they just stabilized the whole Middle East. No, they want it because false Israel got it. They didn't want to stabilize the whole Middle East with that stuff. But they say this stuff, and because if your mind, you would normally reject it right away. But if your mind's already corrupted, you accept that stuff. You understand? The more your mind's corrupt, you accept stuff, and it makes sense to you. Because 2 plus 2, 22 makes sense to you. And so when they start making mistakes, how do you do that? How do you do that? Yeah, because their brain is corrupted. What they did made sense to them. It made sense to them. And like the advanced stage, there's like insanity and all the things that go along with that. But it made sense to them because their brain's corrupted. It's not calculated properly anymore. And when that happens, you can't correct it. Because like I said, once your brain, how are you going to correct your brain once it gets corrupted? How are you going to do that? Even if it's possible, the person would have to do it. So they have to realize their brain's corrupted. How are they going to realize it? They got a corrupted brain. How the corrupted brain going to tell you, let you know that it's corrupted. You understand what I'm saying? So they'd have to know the brain's corrupted, and then know how it's corrupted, and start saying the right things to reverse it. But how are they going to do that when their brain's corrupted? Like I used to tell my child, I said, you know something? You go out there and mess with crack, drug, that kind of stuff, right? And then you mess your brain up. But now, the very thing that you need to stop doing that is corrupt. So how you going to stop doing it? How you going to think clearly enough to stop doing it when you're already corrupt to build that thing anyway? I should have thought knew about that when I was smoking that marijuana, right? And I smoked a lot of it, right? So, anyway, a whole lot. Anyway, that's the situation. They say Elijah Muhammad, he said he was an alcoholic before he met Master Muhammad. His father was a preacher. So he grew up in the church. So he must, like I said, he must have been right thinking or something, because he was able to see Master Fard Muhammad. Like I said, they can throw you in a lake of shit, but shit's on you, not in you. So that stuff was on him, it wasn't in him. Like all this stuff was on me, because in it, the vectors, the drugs, all this stuff, but it wasn't in me. Right? Okay. The devil's in them. That's my brothers and sisters. But they're going to tell you, right, you can't, and they get away with that. And plus, like I said, teaching it, they corrupt their children's brains from the very beginning, because everything they see is a lie. The history is a lie. Economics is a lie. Capitalism is slavery. By definition, it's exploitation. But they tell you that's the greatest thing forever. But you go and study it, it's an exploitation. It's not the best thing. It's not the best thing at all. It's exploitation. It's an exploitation system. Our democracy, that's a lie. Your body couldn't operate that way. Right? Go out there and say, okay, let your taste buds, your tongue gets you out of trouble, right? Run his mouth or taste buds. Now you let your taste buds ruin your body. Oh man, I love them Doritos, right? Until you got diabetes. No, you got a brain has to control it. Right? And the brain is not corrupt. It knows it's got to control it right, because if it hurts the body, it hurts itself. Because where do you feel pain at? You feel it in your brain. So if you go out there and stump your toe and care about your toe, you're going to want to feel it. The toe don't feel it, you feel it. And let's move on, brothers and sisters. Okay, I'm going to talk a couple of things. Like I said, I'm going to keep this short. I'm already talking more than I expected to. Okay, I'm a little commentary. I'm going to talk about a couple of things here, brothers and sisters. See, you're right here. She's right here. Now, what I'm showing here is this. When our brothers, right? You see, he's affected by he's acting like that because all those vectors hitting him. Economic vectors, religious, social. Remember, you have vectors when you have they call it resultant. So you have a vector, another vector hit it, then you get the resultant. So if there's forces, everything is forces, so you can't, a person say, I need to respond to that too. Said they didn't know how to apply vectors to their life experience. Well, that's complicated. It's hard, complicated to do that, right? Because you have to understand your life experience and all these other things before you understand how to apply vectors to it. Because once you understand that it's all about pressure, then it's easier. Because if you understand that, then you that's why devils don't apply this to their life experience, because they have to know what the game is, what the structure is. If they don't understand we're in a pressure system, then why would you apply vectors, forces to that? But once you understand that, then you understand that you start doing that. And you start simply get more complicated. Now I get very complicated with it. And I show you examples of vectors, right? Because if you have your interpretation, you understand it. Thought as force. If you don't understand thought as force, then why would you apply vectors? You understand every reaction has opposite reaction. You have to understand consequence, otherwise why would you apply vectors? Once you understand that, then you understand that's the language. It's like if you ain't never going to France, why would you need to learn French? So once you understand how things work, then you learn, then you start being able, because you start talking that way. Because when you go into the angel, that's all it's talking about is vectors. I keep showing you every time first. They show you some aspect of vectors. They show you another application of it. That's the simplest way. Going in, trying to break those, look at the verse that you understand, and put it in vector context. That start getting you a way to start understanding how they work. Because all of it, all talking about vectors. I tell you, it's all mathematical. That's the vectors, the mathematical language. Pressure, force, that's mathematical language of the angel O's books. But they don't teach it in that way, so they don't talk that way, because the only way they could talk that way to you, right? I mean, why would you talk French if somebody's not in France? So, because they don't talk that way to you, because why would they talk? Because you to talk in vector form to you in the angel, whatever. That means you'd have to understand what they're talking about. It means you have to understand how the universe works. Understand how pressure works, how pressure affects you, and all this. Then, because otherwise you wouldn't understand what you're talking about. You see vectors, yeah, but no. See what I'm saying? Why are you talking French? I don't go into France. I don't know about no France. So if you don't know how the universe works, and you don't know that you're in pressure, and that the fulcrum, and all these different things, and how you can apply vector to yourself? It wouldn't make any sense. But you understand, thought is vector, everything is. Universe is all energy. Energy is force. Pressure is force spread out. Right? Universe encode, expand. Right? Consciousness is reaction. Consciousness is force. It's a reactive force. Consciousness is force. It's a reactive force. You know what then they can talk that language, because you won't be able to talk that language until you get a comprehensive, a thorough knowledge of self. And when they say thorough knowledge of self to you, you think that's your. No, that means the universe, because that you are the universe. We like to. Okay, you got brain cells, right? Is it part of your body? Right? You got different parts of your body. Well, the universe is our body. We're just the brain cells of it. I don't know if I ever said that before, but that's where it is. The universe is our body. We're it. The whole universe is us. And if we're affected by everything that happens in it, because it's us. We're the consciousness of the universe. We're the consciousness of the universe. That's why Maker, Owner, Creator, Planner, God of the universe. We're totally conscious of the universe, because we're the brain. Like our brain is conscious of our body. So we're conscious of the universe, because we're the conscious of the universe. And that's what it means, thorough knowledge of self. You have to come back to being a God again. You put these things together. You have to come back to Godhood. So you're not returned, but you won't return to you turn as a God. Male and female. So like only one person, no, you got both. You have to come to realize who you are. And the male and female both are, the original being was the God, and they both together. The conscious of the universe. And the angel's trying to make you conscious of the universe. You're not, right now you're in sleep. When you sleep, you ain't conscious of what's going on in your body, right? Right now you're asleep. And just trying to wake you up to the universe. I keep telling you how music, all these different things, that you're affecting all these things. And once you get home, there's no place in the universe that you can't travel to. As the Quran says to Allah, He knows every bird that flies, every leaf that falls, and everything else. I mentioned before about this universal mind, so to speak. I'm going to touch on that just a little bit. I shouldn't even go into it. We're one body. We're one body. Right? Once we tune in, then we're all our brains connected. They connect now, we're just not aware of it. Because we sleep as a nation. But once we wake up, all our brains connected. So then you got what? Remember now, in your brain right now, you got all these brain, but they connected through neurons, all that kind of stuff. So you got this super brain now that we're all a part of. Because we're all what's all that, what is that? You know, once you tuning in on, well, we can do that. And we're all conscious of each one of us is conscious of each other. We tune in. We're all aware of each other. So what kind of what is that? What is that? What? The Quran gives you a hint. It says Allah is He who comprehends all vision, but vision comprehends Him not. So I'm taking something that you're never going to. I shouldn't even get in there, bro. Because that's a whole new thing you're not even totally closely aware of. Allah is He who comprehends all vision, but vision comprehends Him not. Now who's got the vision? We got the vision. But vision can't comprehend the whole brain. All that brain come together. Vision can't do it. But that whole brain can comprehend each one of us. And that's what they call Allah. But it's, it's us. That's what Elijah Muhammad said, the original nation is Allah. Let me down alone. See, I know it's way above your head, brothers and sisters. Because once you get home and we get connected, it's your mindset beyond belief. Right now, if you look back at how you are right now, you think it's a worm. Even what I know is nothing compared to what we will know once we get there. Even what I know right now. All I know right now, I'm aware of how all these things work on a intellectual level, but not on a level like you feel me. I put it like that. I'm gonna leave it alone, brothers and sisters. Anyway, see here. Now we're affected by all these different factors. So-called American dream, American reality. And so our thoughts that come from our nature, affected by the thoughts, external thoughts that they put on us. And that's the result. So that's what you see the result here. See? So what happens? Master Muhammad's going to come and destroy these factors. He destroy, because remember, this American dream is like it hosts all these vectors. Remember, because this whole thing came, well, I shouldn't say the American dream, but the American experience comes out of the minds of the devils. So that's their mind, their mental war against us. It comes in, I talk about quality. So it comes in different qualities. It comes in religion, comes in economics, so-called American dream, history, all that stuff, media, all that stuff. So it's coming from their mind, and that's the vector forces they come in that form. I said, but that's the form. I'm trying to show you the quality, the form it comes in different forms. And so we affect it that way. And so, because that's all areas of our brain. We got a social area, we got a religious area, we got a emotional, fear, affected every aspect of us. I don't know if I listed everything there, right? And so we're resultant of our nature, our normal way, and the effect that there. So, and then what you see is the result. So that's the result of that. See? So that's the result. He's not that's not who that person is. He's the result of his thought vectors against their resultant. One going one way or another, then you got the result. So he's the result. He's the resultant. So if you understand force, there's two forces acting there. There's his and the external forces that act on him, and he's the result. So if you know how he was before, then you know the forces acting, the nation, that force act against him. Because that wasn't who he was before. So the American experience means then the difference, the way he was before and where he is now, is caused by the external forces of the devil. See, Farrakhan blamed it. See, that's why once you understand Vex, he's alive right away. No, you don't. It's the math. Like that's why I never with him not even 1 second. Because understand the math, you cannot be deceived. That was even it'd be so powerful that even elect would be, if it was popular, they can't deceive the elect because they think mathematically. That's why you got to go through tribulation, Levites, because you ain't thinking mathematically. To start thinking mathematically, if you don't achieve it, you won't get out. Because you have to think mathematically to achieve Hajj. So what happens here? Bam. Now that's the way it was before. Once you move those vectors, that's what I'm getting ready to do. Now as a warrior. Not confused. He was confused. Look, confused, got a gun, pants off his behind, right? Hair all over. That's the result of us being with him. Pharaoh said, we ain't going nowhere. Then he wants to stay like this. But then they're going to accuse you for being this. You see that he's going to just be like this, and then they're going to accuse you for being that way. Because it's our fault. But we understand mathematics, that's a lie. And when our people start getting mathematics, he's through. Once the people start thinking mathematically, he's through immediately. But he's corrupting our people's brains, and if they stay there long enough, they won't be any good. Because some of the people will not survive. If they were here long enough, they will not survive. Their minds corrupt, they could not be restored. They run out of time. They gotta come to me. I ain't going to them. That's what it says. Okay. Okay. Note it down. Understand, brother, sister. And that's what I'm getting ready to do. Going to destroy this reality, and bam, then you come together. Because you ain't thinking, you don't have that effect on you anymore. That wind's not blowing on you anymore, so now you go in a straight line. That's what she's going to do for you. They got to come to me. Let's move on, brothers and sisters. I'm going to keep it really short now, because, wow. Okay, so, and you see, that's why I say you think things through. I'm going to really cut it short in a minute. You don't read it. It says, he prepared the way before me. So what? He had to prepare the way before me. There's about 4 people there. The God, messenger, 2 messengers. They claim they know. It's 2 messengers in Malachi. And I told you, I put my whole life online just based on reading Malachi. Had no background or anything. And it's right there. And they, whoa, okay. So it says, prepare the way before. So what is, right? So if he prepared the way and then somebody come and destroy the way, then he didn't prepare anything, did he? So the God said he prepared the way, so that means that way has to be there when he show up. So if he leaves, then somebody's got that's what Farrakhan had. That's what Aaron had to hold it down, but he corrupted. So he's part of the prophecy, but he corrupted it. He said he made it a laughingstock. He destroyed the whole thing, but he didn't destroy it, but he corrupted it. He didn't say destroy, he corrupted it. He held it together, but he just corrupted it. You understand? That's the prophecy. Because if they wouldn't plot against Elijah, Elijah would have made it all the way to the message of the covenant, showed up. See? But since they was plotting again, they take him out. So somebody had to hold that seat down, because it says when the message of the covenant comes, right, he would come to the temple. He would sit in that seat. Those would be cast down. So somebody had to be there for them to do that. And that's what Elijah had to prepare. So he wouldn't have to do that because he got a mission to do. He got time to be sitting up organizing or do everything Elijah did. That's why he come a thief in the night. He come quickly. Move on, brothers and sisters. I don't know if you get it, you get it. You don't know. Okay? So I'm prepared to go through this quickly. I talked about this yesterday. I'm really going to go through this quickly. But if you look at the birth they talked about, the birth they was talking about, right? That sounds like satanic birth to me. I really wanted to go into it, brothers and sisters, but let me check this. I didn't know. Okay. So actually, I talked more than I expected. Plus, I had a lot of problems. So I was already prepared. So tomorrow, I'll probably maybe later on to evening. But I just want to recap on that. The point is, if you listen to what they say, are they stupid or their brains are corrupt? Because what they said, that doesn't sound like no godly birth to me, no holy birth. It sounds like a nightmare. His mother was, he says, he's putting God on this. God is controlling this whole situation. He says, God's made this holy womb. He's prepared all this here. Yet how he's preparing it? With rape? With adultery? Fornication? Abortion? Lying? He's a liar. The child born is a liar? And you tell me that's God's work? What God talking about? It sounds like Satan's work. If you listen to what they say, and you right thinking person realize he's talking about the birth of a goddamn devil, of a demon. The boy's a liar. Then he got to teach him to love good people. Why you got to teach a good person to love good people? Black people go, because they're the devil. Why you got to teach them? You got to teach birds to be with other birds? To love other birds? Wolves to love other wolves? And he got beat. He's lying all the time. He got beat him all the time. They try to abort him. A holy woman with a holy womb, holy baby from a holy God, and she's trying to abort it 3 times. What's so holy about that? If you just pay attention to that, if the right thing is, he's talking about the birth of a goddamn demon, of a devil. He's talking about a whole holy person that comes out either, and all he does is lie. They ain't speaking about Jesus. Jesus was a holy birth. They try to say, well, Joseph and the mother wasn't married. And if you look into that, you say that's wrong. But even if you accept that everything else is clean. If you want to say that, just run. Everything else is cool after that. But him, everything is menaced. His conception is bad. Right? His birth is bad. His conception, right? Rape or fornication. Then his birth, abortion. And then his youth, lying. God damn. What the hell are you talking about here? And they said that. I'm saying, if they bring, either it's totally stupid, their brain's so corrupt, that makes sense to them. How the hell are you going to tell us a holy child? And then we got more sin. Elijah Muhammad said he'd be his worst hypocrite. Now he's saying Elijah's a liar? Are y'all saying Elijah's a liar? You say Elijah's perfect. Well, Elijah said fire comes out of fire and comes out of his mouth. That his father, that Elijah Muhammad said he'd be his worst hypocrite. And he also says, right, that his father, right, is a devil. Raped his mama. He says himself, he goes to Google, his father's a devil. Oh, but somehow you get around that because God made you woman. It don't matter who your mother's father is, which needs sperm and egg. You know, that whole. I'm going to leave it there, brothers and sisters. I was really going to really tear into this, but that right there is enough. I mean, how many times you got to stab somebody in the heart to kill them? Even a vampire, just one time, he's dead. And what they did Sunday, they stabbed him in the heart. Multiple times. You know, they might have stabbed him in the heart. Because, I mean, how you going to come out there and say that was a holy child? What was so holy about it? What's so holy about that? I don't see nothing good about it. Nothing. His father's a devil. They make a mother, she's a hoe as far as a rapist, one or two. He's a born liar. Tried to abort him. Yep, she's inspired by God. Well, what spirit God came over her? If the Spirit of God was on her, remember the Spirit of God was on Mary, so the Spirit of God was on her, then why is she trying to abort God's creation, God's holy child? I'm gonna leave it there, brothers and sisters. You know, I don't, it says, who the Lord consume the spirit's mouth, destroy the branches coming. We only got a few more days left. I can just spend the rest of my time just talking about this. But I'm not, right? Because I said I was going to do this project on Angel, one chapter at a time, right? So I'm working on that. But who the Lord consume his spirit's mouth destroy? I'm saying that don't destroy him, what would? But they said right there, and if any of that's true, and it's come out of fire comes out of his mouth, right there, and you still around, and you still listen to that, that means you a demon, or your brain's corrupt and you can't think properly. Because you got to be greater than a fool, because, I mean, how in the hell can you break? Because if hold on, I'm going, bro. You see? What he said, this old man looked just like Farrakhan, don't he? Raped his mama. That's what he said. He's got his mouth, and that kind of softened it up. His daddy. Don't he look alike? Don't he look alike? He ain't no brown, he ain't no light-skinned Jamaican. Well, he might be Jamaican. That's the nationality, not his ethnicity. You can go and Google it. It's right there. Right? Look at, she's trying to abort him 3 times. But she's a holy woman with a holy womb, with a holy child from a holy God. And she's inspired by God. God's spirit is on her to abort that dog that she must think is a dog because she was raped and she don't want it. That makes sense, don't it? I don't care how they color it, right? How they twist it, what flavor they put on it. If she was raped by a dog, she wouldn't want a dog's child. That makes sense. That adds up. And that's what he said initially. He says a dog child. God had nothing to do with it. It's the devil that did it. And he says his father was a satanic Jew. No, he hates satanic Jews, right? Wouldn't that qualify if he's a rapist? And he says his father's Jewish. That means he'd be a satanic Jew. So he produced a satanic son who would cast out Satan. Who they said? They said Satan would cast out Satan. That means he said he cast out Satan, right? And he must be a Satan too. I mean, that adds up. That's mathematical. So if father's a Satan, satanic Jew, then he's got to be one too. Satan casting out Satan. A liar. That his mother tried to abort because she got the original spirit. That makes sense. It adds up. But don't add up if you 2 plus 2 is 22. Don't add up, then do it. Whooping his ass. Why are you lying so much, boy? You You're a liar. You lie because you're a liar. Why are you lying so much? I gotta whoop your ass all the time. My father was hardcore, but I feared that man. Boy, I feared him. He kept a rod on my behind, but not for lying. Not one time he ever accused me of lying. Not once. Ever. I never got hit for lying. Hit for my behavior at school and stuff like that, but it wasn't for lying. When one person ever accused me of lying, that's a demon wife I had a long time ago, right? And she was lying in court and everything, was trying to, whatever. So you put that together like you want to, but it didn't work. It didn't work. In fact, it backfired on her big time. She got nothing. And now I gotta teach him to love black people. Why? I gotta teach a dog to learn to love cats. Satan cast out Satan. That means he must be a Satan. It says he'd be after the works of Satan, son of perdition. I'm gonna leave it there, brothers and sisters. I went to the full version, but right there, that's enough right there. I mean, how many times you gotta drop an atomic bomb on the fool? That's an atomic bomb. Anybody's got a brain? There's an atomic bomb on him, right up his behind. Gaddafi is behind. That's clear. If you got a brain, if you think correctly. Nowhere in the world you get around that. Okay? So if you get around it, then you're a fool, and we don't want you anyway. We're not being fools hereafter. You can count on that. I'll let it go there, brothers and sisters. Assalamu alaikum.